Hello everyone, thank you for joining Pro Surf Blog today for another episode of Epic Surf News. And today I'm here with surfer and shaper and artist Kyle Jackson.
Cheers. Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, I'm so stoked to have Kyle on today. Kyle not only surfs, but when I say shaping, I'm talking about shaping wooden surfboards.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're going to get a chance to go into that whole process in the second half of this podcast. And we're going to get a little more in depth there and show you what goes into actually building one of these surfboards the way he does. But before we hit into that section of the podcast, let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about Kyle. So Kyle, like when did you first start surfing?
I guess I don't know. I've been surfing in, like, my dad grew up in Southern California, grew up in San Diego area.
Okay.
A lot of family from here, so it was kind of always, instilled in us to some degree. I think through our travels, we ended up moving back east, and he was always the dad that was always, packing everyone in the ride and taking all the neighborhood kids to the beach.
Oh, nice.
And so,
right.
he was the, definitely, inspiration for that. It's funny,
So you started surfing in California, or you just got exposed to the beach here and then you moved back?
Yeah, so then we moved back, and it was we moved back and forth a couple different times.
Okay.
So between the New England and Southern California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what types of boards were you stoked on in your early years, or that you used when you were smaller, if you recall?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think I became what I consider, like a daily surfer. Something that was like
regular.
Regular. It's like on the East Coast until you're doing winters.
Mm-hmm.
You're not that. So it's like kind of early '90s.
Okay.
And being back east, it was mostly longer boards.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So that's kind of what I was tuned into, and the guys that got me really stoked on that were also really into the history of things, so they were, kind of more on that end.
Okay, cool. That was kind of going to be part of my next question. Is who are some of the heavies or some of the locals at the time, if you know as well from that early stage, if you even knew.
Yeah, and I have to give a lot of props to Brian Collin, and he was shaping boards and really pushed me into that next kind of level of, not off the rack,
awareness,
other designs, other shapers and things like that. And so kind of more in the, again, towards always based on that kind of classic knowledge of everyone that was before us. Okay. And so that was I was almost kind of shunned some of so it's more in that 90s, kind of modern, when everybody was bringing longboards back, but I was never gravitated towards high performance longboards. Okay. I was always still kind of veered towards the classic.
And you kind of were introduced to kind of the appreciation of the surfers before you, I guess, early on.
That was, but I think to some degree I've always kind of been like that with whenever you find like an artist or someone that inspires you or someone musically, you're like, well, who'd they listen to? Who'd they go to? And so I think I've kind of always had something like, well, where'd that come from? Right. Because if I like this, then what did they like? And so kind of in that, tracking things back more.
You're ready for it. Yeah, you're ready to kind of go there.
We all come from history, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So when did you first come out to California, come back to live here?
So I moved back in 2000. I had been living in Brooklyn for a good chunk, and we had a really good scene there. Just a really excellent scene, and it's kind of almost before it became a bit of a...
Right, it's changed.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. It was Brooklyn back then, and we had a really good neighborhood, and really fortunate, and had a lot of really cool people that all lived kind of in the vicinity, ended up moving within a couple blocks, and we had a really good team, and
nice.
And props to everybody in Rockaway.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, East Coast. And so, what influenced your decision to come out west?
Things were too easy almost. It was like well, not too easy, I wouldn't say that. I had a great loft, half pipe in it. We had a great
back east or here?
in Brooklyn.
Okay.
In Brooklyn, so we had a half pipe in it. We were close to the beach. We had a great crew, had a great job, but we go through months of no waves.
Right.
And so I was like, if that's kind of, everything else can be re-achieved.
Right.
A new house, a new job, everything else can be redone.
You're not in control of the waves. So.
Right, exactly. And so, and that's what kind of, and I realized it was also time in the water. It wasn't just, it's part of that floating, that, that horizon, that kind of deeper point. And so me and a dear friend from Hawaii who was out visiting at the time took a couple months and surfed the whole East Coast back, and then crossed over, went up north and surfed the West Coast south. And
so you kind of gave a long kiss goodbye to the East Coast.
Oh yeah. We left New York, headed north, surfed Maine, New Hampshire, went out, surfed the Cape, went out to Nantucket, spent time, and we were back in New York where we started about 3 weeks later.
Okay.
and then south from there to Rhode Island and onward. So all the way.
Nice.
So, excellent trip.
Yeah, and then so it was a buddy you came out with. You had everything set up there, but then you did that last road trip, and you had a buddy who moved with you here, or they were just on that trip?
He was on his way home. He was going back to Maui.
Okay.
Kyle Williams, and so he was going home, and I was just coming out here, and I mean I had family and some cousins and stuff like that, and I stayed with for a little while when I first came out.
Cool.
But at one point was kind of living in the van, trying to figure things out, and you'd be like, you're in San Diego and you're living in your van, you're like, well, that's homeless,
Yeah.
And then I was like, but if you drive down to Baja, you're on a surf trip.
You're not homeless.
So like a couple months here, a couple months south, and that kind of evolved and eventually got things.
If you're not in Baja, you're like planning a trip to Baja.
Or just loading things up, and just met good people, and I was super fortunate.
So now that you're out here, you've been out here for a while. So where do you prefer to surf? Like, where's your region, your area? I don't know how sensitive it is, but like where do you like to dip your toe in?
Well, spent almost 20 years in Encinitas before we just moved up to Vista. Got some good space, and big changes but the reef selection in North County is always kind of a lean towards. Just leave it kind of vague like that. There's assorted like
I hear you.
The reefs of North County, I would say.
So when you first started surfing, did you primarily surf used boards off the racks? You mentioned connecting with a shaper, but like, were you dipping into custom boards, or at what point?
No, that was the changing point, is when my friend Brian started producing boards on a granted very basic level.
Sure.
But just the fact of it was that one, like, oh yeah, why not? Like, why would we buy boards? Why would you
just make them?
Well, if you can, and if not, you can always try. And I don't know, it's like you can shape kind of the worst board sometime, and you get that good feeling on it, and you're like, that's
Yeah, and was that the point that you started getting your hands into shaping, or did that come later? Okay, so that was my happened
first.
Like at one time. You're like connected with this person,
right? But it's also like my whole life, like since I was a kid, I've always been into art. I've always been a craftsman. I've always made my money with my hands. I've spent my whole life, I built a house from the foundation up. That's what I take pride in. I worked for the music industry for a long time, building sets and running set shops and doing design, and so that's kind of always been. We were always making. I always was a loft liver
and adapting too, like everything you build. Yeah.
When I lived in Boston, we lived in a loft. When I moved to New York, I found a loft, and so that gave us space and you could have anything. You could do anything. You could. I mean,
Is that true?
everybody kept all their stuff at my loft. You know, everybody. You know, our loft was racked with surfboards, and that's where everyone did ding repair. And you know, in Brooklyn at the time, we even were kind of joking. We're like, "Oh, Brooklyn gets no respect for surf clubs." I was like, "Because it has no heritage." You know, and so we started a surf club almost a little bit out of, but almost out of jest. And for the area that we lived in was called East Williamsburg Industrial Park. And so, and that was very specific to where we lived, and we used to call it EWIP. So it became East Williamsburg Surfing Association. Was kind of cool. EWSA was like, and it actually became something, but it was more just showing that kind of community of like, you know, everybody coming together. If you were part of that, your board was fixed. If you had friends that needed a suit or you wanted to take someone out, there was all that there. Like, you know, everybody kept gear there. It was a cool scene for sure.
Yeah, a lot of story talking.
Yeah, a lot of talk stories. And so,
okay, so like, what shapes and shapers were most influential to you in those years, in those early years?
You know, again, I was really the people that inspired me and that pushed me were always pushing me towards the older guys, and so we were. It was like, you know, who could drag what out of what rafter, and how could we surf it? Okay. And a dear friend of mine, Colin, who's in the same ilk with these old surfboard Hawaiis and these old boards that were. And the surf we used to take them out in was really, you know, challenging. And so a lot of things we kind of craved were that. I mean, I shaped the more modern, like kind of longboards that I had shaped or that I had surfed, were like a Shriver and stuff out of Florida. Okay. Made some really nice boards for Spectrum. Trying to think. Yeah, that's, you know, that's one of them. Yeah. That's one of them. I'm trying to think who, you know, a lot at that point still were too kind of off the shelf, you know. Right. So it was like before I was getting boards made. Yeah,
and then your work experience. You talked about building and things like that. So obviously you were kind of young, and then work probably came a little after you started surfing, or maybe close to the same time when you were able to kind of work and get more into surfing.
Well, I actually started working when I was really young.
Okay.
I was didn't finish school, and so I started in construction when I was 16. Pretty much when I left school, I needed to work. Okay. So that was kind of the deal in our house. Like, you know, my dad was a scholar, and you know, he was like, "That's your choice, but if you're not gonna, you know, go to school, then you're gonna work." And so you know, it was always like from literally digging out basements, you know, frozen basements in the winter in Boston to, you know, name it.
Yeah. So were there certain things that you were doing in your work at that time, or even since then, but like that, like you're working on something at work, and you know, do light bulbs go off in your head, or curiosity start to grow because you're like, oh, you know, this tool or this kind of thing that I'm shaping in the real world, if you will, you know, how did that?
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, that really gets to the core of these boards. I mean, my first kind of, I hate the word, like epiphany or something like that, was after my car accident on D Street. Okay. It wasn't really my car accident. I got hit by a car.
You received it, yeah.
Yeah, I was crossing the street.
In other words, like I don't know, like you're building a railing or something. Like, you know, was there any particular types of work that you did that you're like, or now you look back and go, oh, that's how I'm able to do this today?
Oh, okay. So
kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I almost think that I always think you can teach people skills, but there's a certain kind of thought process that people almost need to kind of have to become that. And so once you have that kind of thought process and you understand ways of getting there, learning the actual skills of the individual tools and whatnot in the craftsmanship, it takes time, but that's doable. But if you don't kind of have that thought process, so I think that's always kind of somehow been ingrained in me. I don't know where it is, but people that are working for me, I've seen it, and so I nurture them because I know they have that. And there's certain people that are great with their hands but just don't have that thought process. And so whether, you know, at one point I was doing lathe work and milling machining for a very small plastic fabrication place that did very high-end stuff for like MIT. And so that's very different than framing a house or, you know, finished carpentry or boat building. And so those things, and you kind of always aspire to that next craft. And if while you're doing these things, if you ever look at it like, oh, just one more, you're never gonna, like, every cut has to be like, maybe I can make it a little better. Like, we kind of almost jest about that. Like, you have to have some intention to keep up and to keep accelerating in that thing. So I think that might have been something. I mean, I give a lot of it to my grandfather. You know, like, since I was a kid, I remember sitting around him and him talking about how he built something or how he went to think about it. And so the thought process is what, you know, really, that's it. And I think once you have that, that's, you know, you can lead yourself lots of ways.
So kind of, I guess, pushing forward a little bit, you mentioned D Street and all those kinds of things, and I wrote down. I've talked with Kyle a couple times before this podcast here today. I had to put a little more time. A lot of times I just do these. I prepare questions, I do a little research, and get into these things. And this particular podcast, I needed to do a little bit more homework, a little more background understanding, to kind of be able to talk to you about it. But so in that process. You mentioned a few different people in your, I think some of it during your D Street days. Did we give away your spot?
D Street was just my address.
We're here in Vista, California right now. Before Vista, you were down south a little bit more in the D Street area.
Sure.
So
on D Street.
So how did you get to Vista, or what's happened between there and here, I guess?
Yeah. So, as you know, we were in Vista for almost 20 years, and super fortunate. Had a really great place, 5 blocks from the sand, and right on D. And just, we all know how much things have changed in almost 20 years, and now 22 plus, and just the neighborhood and everything. It had changed, and it was time for us to move. For several reasons, and we were super fortunate and really scored an excellent place with a good little bit of property and a good place to expand.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of that behind us.
Yeah. Solid half acre, and so we're able to, put in like a decent shop and, build on and just excellent neighbors and just an excellent town. Just super. You
got to be close to Bamboo Bob too. Which
all props to Bob.
Yeah,
for sure.
Bob, and Bob's the person who kind of linked this together for us as well. So shout out to Bamboo Bob, and so that's right. Get your plants and bamboo and trees from Bamboo Bob, Vista, California. Yeah, you're
on the information.
You're on the same hillside, if you will. So thanks for sharing that background there, Kyle, on kind of your growing up and kind of East Coast, West Coast, that type of stuff. So we're here today to really talk about these wooden surfboards that Kyle's been putting together, and I've had an opportunity recently to demo one of these, which is I'm super grateful to you, Kyle, for putting all the time to building this board and all these boards you've built, but then trusting to put it under my arm and let me take it out. So,
under your feet.
So I've been dabbling in a bunch of different shapes over the last decade or so, coming from mostly shortboarding and kind of humbling myself and being willing to
age.
A little bit of wisdom, not too much, but so I've been in the mindset of willing to try different things and start kind of from square one and slowly learn the things. And so anyway, so I had never tried a wooden surfboard in my life. I've seen a bunch of surfboards, like wooden surfboards, like, when you go to a restaurant or someplace like that, or a resort, you'll see them on display. I've seen some, Aaliyahs here and there in the lineup, but never picked one up.
Another
kind of stayed away, just
Yeah.
let it happen and not
another
really,
level, sure.
not really go talk about it too much. So it was really eye-opening for me to have an opportunity to try that, to kind of learn on the fly, and then also try a shape that I'd never tried. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But
Okay.
yeah, so tell us about wooden surfboards and how you went from, all this history that you've given us into now bringing all this kind of craftsmanship to it.
So yeah, so it started off in a kind of convoluted direction. I was with a friend, and a lady blew a light at the corner of D Street and Vulcan and hit me. And
wow.
After that, I spent 10 days in ICU.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a little touch and go there for a bit, like
Sure.
bleeding on the brain, whatever. And but whatever. So that all comes to pass, and I had this recovery time where anyone that's had a traumatic brain injury knows it. Don't hide stuff from yourself because you'll never find it. It's an intense process, and the recovery took a while. And so with the influx of money and recovery time, you're like, wow, I have money and time and head injury.
Time.
I'll build a boat. With a head injury, it's a good idea. And so I built a 13-foot sailing pram.
Oh, wow.
And in the process of doing that, my recovery, it was the first boat I built, first wooden boat, and learned a lot, and really started to appreciate the, I kind of believe it's the highest level of woodworking, and that is wooden boat building.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, but I definitely know that building a boat is super intense.
And just all the different trades that go into it, and that is, to me, the gold standard. And so kind of in the process of that, and I started to do, there was steam building some benches for the sailing part of it. And in the process, I started thinking about more and more about, surfboards. I'm going to be surfing again, and how can we apply this? And it kind of evolved from there into these weird thoughts of laminated steam bent rails and this stuff. And I spent months trying to convince myself of why it wouldn't work or why it hasn't been done, and then how would I do it? And it kind of evolved. It evolved from there. So yeah, I mean, at the same time, I first started building these things. I understood that Pat Curran once had a shop just down on D Street from me. It was like right there in the home of Tommy Lewis, who was one of the last dorymen. And the boats he built, and at the same time I'm building this board.
What's that term? Doryman?
A doryman? Yeah. So they were the fishermen off of Cardiff and Georges. That's why that's all named that. And so if you go to Fish 101 or a bunch of other places, you'll see there's a whole photography series done. And I believe a lot of them are a lot of the photos are Tommy's father.
Oh, wow.
But so he was one of the last boat builder, a great surfboard builder, and I don't claim to know these gentlemen or anything, but just very aware of
about them.
Of course, again, being kind of everybody that came before us, the stuff that really mattered. And so it was, in that same vein, and thinking about guys from Kivlin to Quig, and that kind of level,
Yeah, I did a little bit of looking into some of this stuff, and I think what popped up for Kivlin is that he really appreciated style in surfing. Not being so much on the tail per se.
You look at some of his early boards, and there's no way your mind can wrap around how early they are, how progressive they look. They look almost late 60s, and they're 50s, and that is, and Joe Quigg and guys like that, I think they're a little more unsung than they need to be. But yeah, again, not to conflate myself with any of that. It's
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's like holy grail.
Yeah, and then some of the other people that came up in our conversations as well. And again, not that you are necessarily tied to these people, but I know that, you've mentioned, there's Jim Phillips, and then I think there's Bill Bain, who I think there's some sort of tie-in there as well historically. And then, of course, maybe the Hobies and so forth. So all these things kind of come into play for you in your mind as you're thinking about this and going through this process.
Well, that was all of that, and I give a lot of to Jim Phillips. All of that is after the fact.
Okay.
So there's a great quote that I heard from Ian Mackay from Minor Threat, and he talks about the hardcore scene out of DC and how it was kind of separate than New York and Boston and Philly and that whole thing. And out of that, he's like, originality, isolation breeds originality.
Sure.
And I thought that was such. I'm sure I'm bastardizing that quote, but
sure.
That was the gist of it. And I've always kind of held to that. So once you kind of learn something or know something, you're never gonna unknow it.
Right.
And so that's going to affect your later decisions.
Okay.
And so for a long time, I built these boards almost in solitude, like with no influence.
You just went for it.
I built the first one, and then started to build the second one, and that's when my wife was like, "Oh, I think there's a patent here."
Okay.
And Karen, who I couldn't do anything.
And how long ago was this part?
This is probably about 12 years ago.
Okay.
So, 11, almost 12 years ago.
Okay.
Is when the first board started coming out. And the concept and how it's built, everything's evolved considerably. But build the first one, and she's like, "Oh, no one does this. There's a patent in it." And I was like, "Yeah, everybody thinks they have a patent in surfing. Everyone's, I'm the first one to do this." Yeah. Me with like knowledge of the history, I was like, "I'm sure this has been done. It just doesn't work, and I just don't know about it, or there's some other reason or something,
sure.
or whatever the reason is behind it." And just kind of plodded along, and I have to give props to. She reached out to a patent attorney in La Jolla.
Okay.
John Handgardner, I believe is his name, from expats in La Jolla.
Okay.
Super rad guy, and a surfer.
Okay.
And legit, super rad guy. And we had a couple phone conversations. And that's when, and he was like, "Well, I'll come up and look." And then after a conversation or two, he was like, "I think you have something."
Okay.
And it's more the patent on the building process, not on the shape, of course.
And this was like 2 boards in, or more? How many boards?
This is
in?
2 boards in.
Okay, got it.
And and so he sat there and talked about it. And he was like, "Okay, so that's going to run between $5,000 and $15,000."
Got it.
It's like, super awesome. Thanks for driving up to North County, and enjoy your day.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't have that kind of access to cash.
Got it.
And so we talked for a while, and we hung out. And I remember Karen was making watermelon juice. And he was like, "Oh, this is really good."
I've tried some of that.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
okay, yeah. So
Karen,
she was,
Karen's
Karen, my wife. Yeah, awesome. And she, and so he's sitting there having this, and he was like, "Well, this and that." We're kind of hemming back and forth. And I was like, "Well, if you like the idea, what about I give you a piece of it?"
Okay.
And so if the patent pays out, you get whatever. I'll give you half of it or something. It's like, no. We go back and forth, and he was like, "Well, build me a board." So I'm like, "Okay, so build you a board. How many boards do I got to build you?" "Yeah, build me a board." It's like, "Okay, how much money do I got to give you?" He goes, "Just 1 board."
Okay.
And so I built him a board, and he followed through, and the patent went through. And so, I mean, a friend of mine who owns several patents in a higher class of things said, explained it perfectly. He was like, they're never going to make you rich. He goes, but they're a great pat on the back.
Yeah.
And so that's the way. That's the only way I look at it. Is
Yeah,
like it's a little thing. It's a pat on the back.
You documented it, right? You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, but yeah. So
yeah, no, that's cool, and who knows, right? Things can come into play. So from what I understand of talking with you, Kyle, there's been a couple people that have been really instrumental in helping you progress in this endeavor. And so one of the names that popped up a number of times in talking to you was Jim Phillips.
Yeah.
And so how did Jim Phillips pop up on your radar, and then how did you meet him? Like, how did all that?
I had been before the accident and everything. I had been glassing and laminating for a Cardi, and when I first started building my boards, I didn't feel like glassing again. I didn't feel like getting back into that. I was kind of done of that part for a bit. I just wanted to be on the wood end. And so I spoke with a really good older friend of mine in Encinitas, Tony Hyde, all props,
Okay.
and full legend.
Yeah.
And Tony spoke to some people, and he hooked me up with Marcio Avila.
Okay.
Up in Oceanside.
Avila
Makes
Surfboards.
Avila surfboards and does a beautiful glass job and everything. I think Lights Out was what they were back then, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the same, but yeah. And so he was a great inspiration at one point when I would come in and bring in my boards, and he would to glass them, and I'd piss and moan and point out all the flaws and stuff like that. And at one point he turned to me and he said, "I'm not going to do your boards anymore if you bitch and moan and show me all these flaws." He's like, "You spend way too much time with these." He's like, "They're beautiful, they're progressing." He's like, "Just shut up." And so I was like, all right, bet, you know. And so it's like gave me a little more confidence.
Okay.
And at the same time, I knew like my shaping skills were nowhere even close to par. And so I'd spoke to him about, oh, you know, you shape, would you want to work with me in this and that? And he was like, you know, it's just very different, you know, his short boards, high performance kind of thing. And he's like, you know, not really that. And he brought up Jim Phillips. And I chuckled. I'm like, yeah, right, you know. He's like, no. He's like, I heard.
Mr. Jim Phillips.
AI.
Oh my God, not even.
Yeah, we have another guest here.
Not even toying, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we got? We got Mr. Jim Phillips.
Chat GPT is going to jump in. They got
Oh,
something to
shit.
say.
Hey, brother. So it was funny, bro. We were just talking about you. And we were just talking about how I was introduced to you through Avila, and the phone rang and it said, Mr. Jim Phillips. Like, it couldn't have been tighter.
Oh, that was amazing. The universe
Freaking
just
hilarious.
brought us Jim Phillips in the middle of the podcast. So cool. Give him a call. So yeah. So back to what you were talking about is Avila was kind of, you know, pointing you in the right direction and trying to facilitate this connection.
Well, and now that I get to call Jim not only a mentor but a dear friend, it's really made sense. His nickname, as people know, is Jim the Genius. He didn't give it to himself. He does museum caliber, like wood restoring of boards, and the boards he shapes, it's short boards, long boards, name it. You know, I think he has over 64 years of behind the planer. So
Sure.
it's just and. After some hemming and hawing and doubting myself, I finally reached out to him, and he was like, hey, if you're ever in the neighborhood, you know, come on by or send me photos. I'm like, I live like 3 blocks away because they're up on the hill on Westlake, right?
Okay.
And they're with Fins Unlimited and Ding King and Bing and everybody.
I haven't been to this spot,
we'll rally. But so the hill, I mean, if you're a surfer, I mean, that's religious up there. That's spiritual, like stuff that's gone on there. And so super fortunate. I'm like, he's like, come on by. And so I brought over a couple of my boards that I had been building and a couple of the frames in the process. And we talked for a couple hours and just super kind. And I had actually spoke to him and said that I didn't have enough balsa at the time to finish planking one of my boards.
Okay.
So he went and dug out some scraps. They're these long angular scraps, and he gave them to me, and I'm like, oh, thanks. And I'm thinking like, this is not going to work. This is not the wood I need. So I went back to the shop, and I was sitting out there one night drinking beers, just looking at these things. And I looked at them like, pulled out a block plane, planed them both out, put them together, and they ended up making a perfect joint.
Okay.
And then was able to mill the hole, and it just came out
worked.
perfect.
It worked.
Perfect. And I sent it to him, and it was just like, it was almost like I passed the test.
Yeah.
it was almost like, how was I going to make this stuff work? And it was like,
he knew it could work. Most likely.
yeah,
I mean.
most likely, but he never let on either way. But then afterwards, it was like, and since then, it's like, we share a lot of things from East Coast too, and
Right. I did do a little research on Jim Phillips, and realized that
Hawaii, Rhode Island, Florida.
It's been all over.
Yeah.
I think I read something that said he's shaped in almost every state that has a coastline.
Yeah.
And maybe he's missing one or
And
something.
and beyond, and his level of knowledge of history and of boards and just craftsmanship.
Yeah, his history, again, I did a little homework. I don't know, I'm just speaking about what I read, but it looks like he had an opportunity himself to learn from somebody who, kind of was a next level type of builder, if you will, or scientist even, which was Carl Tinker West.
Yeah,
right?
who we just lost recently.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, who just passed, exactly. And he speaks of that time humbly, like learning, taking his beatings, running his mouth, thinking he knows better. Just all these things that we all do, that we all do when we're young, and to not forget that, and to spread that, and keeps the coconut wire alive.
yeah, and I think at least I guess reading from where he was coming at in terms of where surfboards were at that time, and it looked like he was very interested in what was developing at that point, like V bottoms and down rail and things like that as well. So I'm a little curious about that, but
he'll be in your next episode.
We'll
get Jim to sit in.
That would be so cool.
Yeah,
that would be. I might be more ready for that conversation after this one. From what I've learned so far, there's a few different approaches. A few different approaches to building wooden surfboards. So the common one I keep running into, I guess, is the airplane wing design. And I think that from talking to you that you do something different from that. So so how does your method differ from that design? All
right. So the main way kind of I would think of like boards there, you either have like balsa boards, which are chambered.
Okay.
You have solid balsa too, but usually chambered balsa, or they have like the airplane wing, or Grain was pretty popular with selling the first kits, I believe.
Okay.
Of building that style board.
Okay.
And with mine, the entire structure is based upon the rails and the outline. All right, so I guess the best way to try to express this is a chambered board is a solid, say, balsa board.
Like an airplane wing?
No, a chambered, a classic.
Okay.
So like back in balsa, like pre-foam, when you have a balsa board, will be glued together, tack glued together, rough shaped, knocked apart, and then chambered in certain areas and put back together and finished shaped before it's glassed.
Okay.
And that gives the lightness to it. With the airplane wing style, you're building a skeleton on a rocker table and then sheeting it and finishing it. With my boards, what I did is the structure is all in laminated steam bent rails that are laminated on a rocker table, so it has the outline and the majority of rocker included in that steam bent rail. And then the deck and the belly are tensioned in separately, kind of creating a rough shape and then the board's finished shape from there, and then glassed.
Okay, and because the rails are there first, makes it a hollow board throughout the board for the most part.
Right. It's completely hollow. So and then everything being tensioned in individual strips, not as sheets. That all plays a part in the structure. And I think the big concept was to me was like, if you think of the construction of a skateboard. Right. So you have 7 or 8 layers of like maple plywood that's put under a 6-ton press into a mold. And now when you left that mold up and you have your skateboard shape, that energy didn't go away. That forced it. What it did is, it's like in physics they refer to it as stored or potential energy, because you've taken all that force and you've applied it. That's why a new deck has that pop.
Yeah, so for me, I think of pop.
Yeah. So a new deck has pop to it, because that's all that energy that was pressed into that board. And so the concept with these boards was that by laminating our rails and the amount of force it takes to bend 8-quarter ash in the shape of those boards, when those all that's released, that energy still is there in the board. And so the concept is trying to convert that pop and apply it to a surfboard. Now, whether we've got there yet or how we've evolved, I mean, the boards take between, earlier ones were, I was building individual rocker tables at the time, so those were over 400 hours.
Wow. Okay.
And now that I have an adjustable rocker table and I understand the process a lot more and it's getting evolved, they're down to 250, 300 hours.
What do you do with all your extra time?
I know. And that's like hands-on. That's not time of like milling the laminates or soaking things, or it's the actual. Yeah.
So going back to you gave 3 different kind of versions there, and so the original version kind of almost sounds similar to how the foam came into play, where it's like you have this block of something and you're whittling away at it.
Right.
And maybe the airplane version, if I'm not mistaken, and how you're doing it, those sound a bit more like you're building something, more building it out.
Right. So yeah, and so like that, the airplane wing, or however people want to refer to that structure kind of designates as much as you can do. And I have different molds and forms that I use to ballpark about what I want left, and when the thing's halfway done, I can still shape the inside and shave weight and different things till it's buttoned up. But yeah. Okay.
So what features or performance enhancements are you currently working on or wrapping your head, putting your brain power into, now that you've done quite a number of these boards? So yeah, I imagine you're always kind of looking at different parts of your process and trying to improve.
Well, that's one of the issues that I learned early on, is that the complexity of the boards and the way that I build them, you can only change 1 or 2 variables at a time.
Okay.
Because at one point I got in and started changing 3, 4, and I'm like, oh, I got to do this and this and that, and all of a sudden everything stops working, and you don't know what did that. And so it's like, okay, so you got to roll it back. And so the first board, the rails were almost 2 inches wide, laminated, white oak, because the force, I thought for sure when I popped it off the jig, was just going to explode. The force that it takes to glue them and to make that shape. And so as I went along, I realized, okay, no, this is going to hold. And so I've reduced that size, and now we're down to maybe 7/8 or something. Right. So yeah.
Okay, so my next question I want to ask you, which I think you kind of maybe touched on, because you're talking about what works and doesn't work, right? And I know that part of that is what works and doesn't work actually, on the table and as you're building this thing, but also that goes all the way down to you're in the water with this board. So for myself, I only have had one opportunity to ride one of these one board, and my only wooden surfboard I've ever ridden.
In that particular,
What's that?
We got to break out the stack next time. We'll grab a couple.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely, you got me going now. So, but one thing that stuck out to me, it was a mini Simmons board. So you got 2 giant keels, big tail, big round nose. And so that board, a couple things. Well, first thing I noticed is when I picked it up, how like that weight of the board. I mean, because I've been riding EPS boards for a while. Yeah. So I went from poly to EPS, and poly is pretty light as well. And so I was like, whoa, because it's weird is that you do such a beautiful job. Is that you look at the board, and it reminds me, the closest thing it reminds me to that I am familiar from a aesthetics point of view is like the Firewire fake laminate look. Yeah. And this is real. Yeah. So, you pick up those Firewire ones, right? And they're super light. Yeah. You can, and I picked this up, I was like, whoa, okay, this is, and right there I was intimidated a little bit because I'm like, other than holding a giant log and not really using too many logs at my time.
Yeah, it's not that heavy, but yeah.
But from EPS guy, shortboard, definitely, EPS guy, sure. There's a definite weight difference, and I'm not trying to put the board down. I'm just saying.
No, and without a doubt, it's a wooden board. It's a different.
So it intimidated me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to surf something like this, and then of course the shape. But anyway, so I get out to the lineup. Duck dive's great, right? It was, boop, popped under there. What size is that board? The mini Simmons?
I couldn't tell you really right off the bat.
Under 7?
We could pull tape.
7?
Oh no, under it's maybe a little over 6.
A little over 6. Okay, wow. Yeah. Okay, so
but anyways, small 6s.
So I get, we went on a pretty good day. It was 3 to 4 foot or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. And once I took off on the board, I mean that board went fast. So
it wants to go.
I would have to say probably one of the fastest boards I've ever been on. So that definitely caught me by surprise. I think when I think heavy, I think maybe it's going to be slow. But I got on the wave, and next thing you know, I found myself kind of crouching down and grabbing rail even because I'm like, whoa, here we go. Yeah. And I came like shooting out some shampoo and things like that, and and by the second, third wave, I found myself, okay, I'm turning. I'm gonna try to turn this thing, and I was able to pull off some turns and do some things on the board where I was like, okay, cool. So
it's definitely a little more skatey, being that versus what you're normally riding. It's going to be a little, just with that shape. And I know they say mini Simmons. This one's actually taken off of a mini Jimmins template. Mini Jimmins. Okay. Just for the record, but
all right,
that's debatable. Yeah, sure.
So I haven't ridden it enough times to actually feel like I could articulate what I've learned out of it, right? It's more just maybe a confidence and an inner feeling of what I want to do or what I could do maybe in the future. But you've obviously had a lot more time than I have on the boards you've shaped. So what have you learned about riding wooden surfboards now that you are that person?
Well, that guy. That guy. Well, that goes back. So at one point, you start to, kind of progress to a certain point, and you look at other stuff or earlier stuff, and you're like, oh, what was I thinking? And at one point, I was like kind of progressing, and I was looking back at some of my older boards, and I was like, what was I thinking? Like, this looks odd, this is that. Okay. I'd bring it up to the hill, have like all the boys, like, why does this work? Like, it doesn't look like it should work. Okay. What is it? And lots of different feedback. And most of the old guys would be like, why do you think? Why do you think it works? Why do you think it does this?
Because you wrote it.
And not only that, but I think they don't want to corrupt my thought process. They don't want to just input because they see that I'm trying things and I'm working on a different thing. And I think it's just literally through their guidance that like they inspire you to figure it out, and you're around that higher caliber, and they have that great feedback, and so super humbling. And the more I started to ride some of the older boards, I was like, I don't think I was so much. It sounds a little corny. It sounds super corny, but shaping a board for something, but it was a feeling I got, and when I started riding those boards, I'm like, this is what I got. This is what I was tuning this, and I felt the progression from the boards. Like, oh, with this one I gained more control. Oh, this one I gained more speed. You know, and so it was this feeling out process. And Matt Cavani from Bing brought up a good point too. He's like, sometimes it's just a combination of the materials, you know, and just a certain way. And he goes, it's not going to reveal itself. It's not that obvious. It's not some magical number. It's not that. It's just this combination of things. And one of the greatest compliments I ever got was when I first shaped the Piggy V, and we had a good, like, solid 3 to 4 at D, and it was just just a great day, and just had this board, and it just performed so well. And this local, like, rag guy, Tracy, says this. He says to me, he's like, oh, he goes, you shaped a board for the way that you surf.
Okay.
And I always thought that was like kind of the biggest compliment, like, because I was like, oh my God, this board works so great. He was like, and the board that I had shaped wasn't anything. It kind of evolved as it was going. Like, it was going to be one, and it kind of became something else, and it kind of finished being this thing that I would have never bought off the rack.
Okay, right.
And almost everything I've shaped is something I would never buy, you know,
Right. Well,
or have made.
Right.
You
So
know?
I think as you're talking about that, and I've looked at the Quiver, some of the boards you've showed me. It's not like you've built 10 of the same kind of shape to figure out that either. So you're almost kind of, you've got all these different shapes going on. So they don't all translate to.
And different materials and
in different materials, right?
Like,
so.
that's a big one. Like, I started to try to work in other woods in the rails because of their different flex. Like, in a couple of them we have western red cedar sandwiched between the ash, and just it being a softer wood, is that gonna affect or give any difference to it? There's one I did that actually had balsa, and that was a whole other monster. But yeah.
My last question for this segment is, I guess, maybe about positioning, or what you see or maybe don't see, but these surfboards are undoubtedly wall hanger material. Like it can be used for that. Like I see that, of course, because they're beautiful. It's just
Super kind.
Yeah, it's start to finish, nose to tail. They're beautiful boards. They look great, and so. Is wall hanger what you're looking at, or is it writing them, or what?
Well, that's the thing, is like trying to close that gap. Like, they're not made for wall hangers. They've been ridden, they've been crashed. A lot of the concept was behind them was you look at the old guys riding planks back at San Onofre back in the day, right? Guys like Peanut Larsons and stuff like that. Okay. You have them like dinged out board, they got chisels out there, and they're knocking in a block of wood so they can get back out in the lineup. It's not like, oh, I don't have solar res, or oh, I got a ding, I'm done for the day kind of thing. It was like varnish and boom, back. And so that thing that I thought that was a huge point, was not to ever become part of the landfill,
Okay.
And this is like, I think the whole soft top and all that is it's horrible for the whole industry, for all the craftsmen, and not even speaking about myself, but all the legends and all the people that like make this happen, and just that pop out, that Costco, that
disposable.
landfill. Yeah, it's never going to be hung on the wall.
Right.
And you have an old board or something shaped by someone, I mean. You look at stuff like Randy Rarick or Roger Hines, those guys rebuilding classic stuff Jim Phillips does, museum quality. Like, they're taking old boards and they're keeping them in the family. They're reglassing them because they're that important. That's never going to happen with any soft top. It's bound. I mean, but,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, because I that's what kind of comes to my mind is, not just a wall hanger, but I'm like, I could see that being at a mansion or a hotel or a resort, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think of like Turtle Bay, you could walk around the corner to go have breakfast, and boom, there'd be a board like the ones that you've made sitting right there.
They're works of art, but they work, and that's the thing, is like, that's a hindrance. It's like, how can you, but they work and they last. And the first ones I was surfing without leashes because I wanted to see what happens when I lose it into the rocks. I want to see how it takes. Like the first ones we really surfed to try to kind of blow up. Like, how is this going to fail? Why isn't this done before? Different things, and we've kind of evolved with it. And so it's, I don't think its stories, reached any conclusion yet, but I think it's definitely, that stage. And there's just been a little setback as far as like production, just as being as constant as it was before, because getting reset up, moving the move and the new place and all that.
Right, new place, yeah.
Yeah.
So I lied. There's one more question on this part, and it actually is going to segue into the next segment here, and it's probably maybe one of the the end of the process questions in that side of the conversation. When you say glassing, because this came up, I've talked to people about this, and they asked me the question. I didn't know the answer. But so when you're saying you're doing the glassing, or they get to that, you're working with the Vila for a minute at the beginning. What is that process like? Because you're like, okay, you got this wood surfboard, it's all laminated together in a sense, to some degree.
Oh, it's done.
It's done. So what is that?
There's been some debate even. I've spoke with people where they were like, varnish it and go. Like it would work that way. All right, you could spar varnish it and close it up, or use 2-ounce glass or something like that. Again, I tend to glass things a little heavier.
Sure.
I tend to be heavier on boards. I tend to be a little more loose with things, and so it's so that's cloth, that's laminated, that's the same process that any foam blank would go through. So.
Right, because I just kind of peeked back at the board again, because obviously, I mean, you see all the wood and the grain and everything through the glass job.
Yeah.
So when you talk about,
I glass these.
But you talked about 2-ounce, right? So sometimes people are talking about 4-ounce, 6-ounce. Like what?
Oh, this is. I think this has. I put a 4 and a 2 on the deck.
Okay.
And there's maybe 4 on the bottom.
Okay.
So it's still heavier than I need to be, but.
Okay, well, I was going to say, so it is kind of in the realm of poly or EPS thickness, maybe a little lighter.
Right. And we did some early that were epoxy too. Okay. And so there's some different things. I tend to, maybe I had some issues with it or whatever, but there was some things that came out a little foggy, and so I wasn't as happy with it. But epoxy is just a different beast.
Right.
But there's always another debate with that, because epoxy has more flex, and so there's a concept of getting into that realm more, and again, it's still part of the.
Right. Between the pop and the
couple
flex.
couple hundred hours at a time, and just chip away out of.
Right. So it's you're still you could try something new at some point.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah.
Okay, so standard. So it's basically just standard glass job for the most part. I mean, 2-4 ounce in that realm. Yeah. But there's nothing different about the process at that point.
No.
From a foam board.
Well, in general with wood boards is that, or anything wood that you're laminating, you have to do like a wet laminate coat first that you let cure, just the resin, so it can gas off and seal up before. If you just put cloth down and then work it through, a lot of times it'll gas a lot. So there's little things like that you do to wood more. But so
basically like watertight, kind of tightening it up a little bit more.
Yeah, it's more of just a clear coat of laminate resin that you let it
flush.
Well, no, you just let it go off, because that will kind of seal the wood a little bit, and if it's going to gas, it will gas then most likely.
Okay.
And so if not, it seals it enough so that when you lay down your cloth, because you have woods that will gas later, and everything looks fine, and you come back and you have all this soda underneath your underneath your glass job and stuff. It's like, because the wood's going to breathe, it has all that in it. So there's couple things like that. But.
Yeah, I've seen with the EPS boards, I've stuck around to see some of that happen, and I see that gases up, and I've seen my shaper kind of like do dots.
Chase it.
Yeah, fill them in.
Well, when I was laminating for a Cardi, I chased
Okay.
chased soda.
Get it. Okay, cool. Well, that was super awesome. I think we wrapped up this first segment. So stay tuned right here. Stick with us, and we're going to just move right over into the actual process. And we'll, obviously we're not going to put 300 hours into that part, but we're going to try to move through that a little bit and then bring you some visuals so you can kind of see, because some of this is real technical, but we've got some really good images and footage there to kind of illuminate this whole thing for everybody watching, and especially for some of the surf nerds, shaper nerds out there who want to maybe spend some time figuring this out as well.
Yeah, a little reverse engineering.
Yeah, or adding to the, maybe somebody will try it out and give a phone call or comment and tell you, hey, Kyle, I really blew it on this one.
Yeah. Dude, that was my patent, bro.
That's right. Yeah. All right, everybody.
All
cool.
Right. Cheers.
Okay, so we're about to get into the process of building wooden surfboards in terms of, what Kyle's working with here and how he likes to work it. Here is a sample of a quiver that you have, Kyle. We got 6 boards here, including the mini Jimmins that I tried, but you've got 5 other ones here. So before I go stand next to this board here, tell us a little bit about what you're looking at.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a little evolutionary of like the shaping and the kind of building process of these boards that we've gone through, and like mixing up different materials, and obviously a fan of the glassing and everything being kind of one. But yeah, these are all been ridden extensively. The first 3 furthest away from us are all decked in balsa, and then the 3 closest to us are Paulownia. And that happened just due to quality balsa, price of things. And then you're talking about, what's better for the environment, what, lives better. You gain a bit of weight with the Paulownia, but overall, I think performance-wise, they're,
That's a good wood. You like that wood?
The
Paulownia?
Yeah. In general, and it's a really quick growing tree. It replenishes quickly. It's again, we're not trying to add to the landfill.
Yeah.
We're not trying to make things worse, but.
And, for the woodworkers out there, or maybe even non-woodworkers, there's different kinds of woods like you talked about, but I think a lot of people talk about woods in terms of heavy or light. Are you working with mostly heavy woods or medium? What are you doing?
So the rails and the steam bending are all done. The earlier ones were done in white oak, which is a wood that can be stoked in steam bent. And then later I switched to ash. And ash is like it's got a finer grain. It accepts the moisture and the steam little less. It's easier to shape. It's much more pleasant to work with. And so so the first 3 are also with the white oak. And then the other ones are not. And then you can see in the ASIM in the middle and the mini Jimmins on the end. We have mixed in Western red cedar.
Okay, make sure you can kind of see
that. So it's like Western red cedar. Into the rails. So that being a softer wood, we were kind of like what we talked about before, maybe looking for some different reactions and not. And you can see in the earlier ones here, like this one, we were able to actually, that's balsa mixed in with the white oak, which was very difficult. I actually was able to bend balsa and put it in between the white oak, which took us several times because if you applied too much pressure, it would just crush that layer, so you wouldn't have those run totally parallel. And it shaved weight. I don't know how much it did for the. It's fun, and then
So what sticks out to me, Kyle, is the fins. I mean the beauty on those things. Are you making the fins yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. And all the fins are, I kind of always dig the glass on, which isn't necessarily the best idea when you're working on design.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely been part of the feel and something I work for, and always been a fan of the Purple Heart, so I tend to lean on that. And
Purple Heart?
like Purple Heart is the continuous color that you see through the fins.
Yeah, so you kind of have a motif going on here.
Whether the boards change, yeah. No red fin army here. We got Purple Heart.
All right, yeah, so this is the Mini Simmons, Mini Jimmins board that I got to demo. Kyle was kind enough and willing to let me paddle this thing out. Yeah, well, now that I was talking about heavy board, now it doesn't even feel that heavy now that I've been down this road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not the first time under the arm.
Yeah, now I feel like, oh, this is basic. This is how it should be. And you can see here, this is the glass job he's talking about. You see all the wood, the grain through it, even the wax job. I mean, everything we got going on here. So fairly thin up here at the top too. I mean, so these boards, I mean, they're shaped like, I mean,
I've heard them called glorified Elias because it's not that plain, but they're really pulled out. They're harder rails. They're,
but it's not like it's just a big block of wood. I mean, when you feel the rails and you feel the nose, you feel how everything kind of tapers gradually.
Play it.
Yeah.
No, like one of the.
Oh.
Like that's it's hollow. Each one of these is tension fit in individually, and then the board shaped. Like same with the belly. It's a friend of mine who's a musician talked about that. He's like, oh, it's almost like you're a bit of a luthier, because, and when they get finished and I'm buttoning them up and I'm finished shaping them, a lot of times I can tell what's my thickness, how much more I can take away by the way it sounds.
Well, what I was going to suggest maybe is you should maybe put the note at the different parts, so when I get out of the water and the drum circle erupts, I can hit the right stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody, thanks for checking in for the second part of this interview here and this kind of learning experience that we're getting with Kyle. We're actually now going to get into the actual process a little more, and we're going to actually have some visuals here for us to show you as we talk about it. Kyle, I think the starting point for some of this is types of wood. So every time I talk to people, or even my first thought is when somebody says wooden surfboards, I think balsa, because that's the only thing I am familiar with. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the woods you're using, and then kind of a high level explanation of like how those different woods might change your process a little bit.
So the rails are all made of hardwood, and to give it longevity, structure, and kind of everything else. So we originally, since they're soaked and steamed, not all hardwoods are good for that. So the first couple boards were made with white oak, which I have access to. But anyone that knows that works with oak is a larger, more open grain. It's a little tougher to bend on some of the complex bends. Compound where you're coming up and around and back down and you're capturing the rocker and everything. And then so I switched to ash, which ash is a really good wood. It has a much tighter grain, and I tend to think of it as a more responsive wood. So
a little more
my rails are made of ash.
A little malleable or whatever. They bend it.
I think so. It just accepts the. You're kind of placating the fibers that. So you're soaking them and you're steaming them to give them movement, and those they tend to. Yeah.
So ash is one of your favorites. In some of our conversations, I know you talked a little bit about maple and Paulownia. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
So some of the other hardwoods that I've used were a little bit of walnut and a little bit of maple and some other things, and those were mostly for nose blocks and tail blocks.
Okay.
And again, I've trying to keep shedding weight and you know, the whole process is like the first one was way too much, and so keep taking it back bit by bit, and the rails became thinner, a little more responsive, and so we shaved weight, and so now the tail blocks I tend to do is something more like a Western red cedar, something that it's a softer wood, but it will still hold, and it relieves a lot of the weight.
So like one board could have multiple wood types.
Oh, they all
used.
do.
They all do.
They all do. Yeah.
And in particular, the tail and the nose might be different from the rail system or the decking.
Correct. Just for lighter, and again that kind of that movement we're looking for, that some of that
Sure.
kind of responsive
Flex
play.
and pop, and
Yeah,
at the end of the day. And then, is there so if somebody was to get a board from you, or you're making one for yourself, is there a cost factor involved, or is it a factor for, you know, choosing the combinations of woods you're using? So are there woods that maybe work just as well, but you're like, this is going to cost me more money?
Well, yeah. So for the decking, for the general skinning of the, which is still part of the structure of the board, I switched from balsa to Paulownia just because of accessibility. The price is kind of there also, and Paulownia really tends to be more uniform. Where balsa, you'll get some balsa that will be super light, and really easy. Other stuff, I've heard it called balsoak, another terminology, because it's so hard and it's so heavy. And so getting something very uniform is kind of crucial, and then lighter, and then just the natural properties that Paulownia has. And
so it's consistency,
consistency, and the fact that it you know, you have that turnaround time for growing, and it's better for the environment.
Mini Simmons that you let me try, that we also talked about in the previous segment. So that one is a pretty cool board. What did you use on the Mini Simmons in that case? What do you remember? What
that's Western red cedar, which we also introduced into the rails also to give it some lightness, and again some more play. And Western red cedar and ash and it's skinned in Paulownia.
Okay. So yeah, you talked about integrating into the rails. So the rails have multiple layers, as we'll get into. So I think step one is, what happens at step one? You decide you're making a board.
So let's say you came to me for wanting a board. So everything being completely custom.
Yes.
And depending on what people want from it, to be more active, for more surfing, more artistic, more wall hanger, whatever your angle is. It's very personal. So every board's made with that person, and so from design and shape, outline, rocker, what woods are going to be put into it, I'm making it for you.
Right.
It's just my technique, but it's your board, and so that's the whole concept behind it, is that they're very individual for each person. And so someone who might not want it as much for surfing and might want it more for aesthetics, might want some more inlays, or use some heavier or some more colorful woods in it. You know, that's something feasible.
Right.
You know,
so then you could change it based on that. But if I said, hey man, I want to rip this thing. So you're gonna have a different recipe of wood combinations that you would choose for that function.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so there's several different steps to this, right? And so it's different from making a foam surfboard. So step one in this making a wood surfboard is what for you?
Well, yeah, for these boards. Wood boards. So these is we'll come up with an outline and a template. Usually make that in paper, transfer that to masonite. From that, we'll come up with the numbers for the rocker system. All right. And that's what we have here, is like just kind of loosely set up an adjustable rocker table.
So this is called an adjustable rocker table.
It's a rocker table. Yeah, it's a totally adjustable rocker table.
Okay.
It's not fully set up, but yeah.
So prior to, or maybe this is part of step one, but when we get to the adjustable rocker table, things have already been done prior to this, right? Like
the wood's been milled. All the rails are made out of 8-quarter ash after the outline is come up with and the templates are made
Okay.
for the outline. The rocker table is set
Okay.
for a little plus of what the rocker is going to be, because it does have some relax, and there's also some removal that we have available. All the ash is ripped down from, it's all 8/4 usually, and comes in large pieces and all ripped down to these thin laminates,
Okay.
3/32 or something.
Okay.
And these are all soaked.
You
So
soak those.
I have a large tank that I built just to soak the strips in it, and so those soak for maybe a day or so at least.
It is like an open tank? Like
Yeah,
a,
it's just a big.
Uh-huh.
It's just to, I put rocks on it, just keep them submersed.
Sure. Oh, okay.
And you just
yeah.
want them, you want them totally saturated,
Okay.
and then after that, and then so after these are soaking, and the rocker table is set. Again, just for demonstration.
Yeah.
At all what it's like, but so this would be a set rocker table. This would be on. A mold is built.
Uh-huh. And how long did you soak those other pieces of wood for?
Usually a couple days.
Okay.
Day or so,
Oh,
day
okay.
minimum.
Oh,
But
okay.
I've left them in for longer sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole building process, I'll just leave them in there. I mean, they're fine soaking.
Right.
Steaming's a little more delicate, and depending on the thickness, it's like if you over steam it, you'll almost lose something to the malleability.
Right. Right.
For the steamer, we have a bunch of black PVC in different lengths, and a bed that they all kind of sit in, and hook up an old wallpaper scraper or
Uh-huh.
wallpaper remover
Sure.
steamer, and I have that hooked up, and so I can adjust the tank, make any size. I actually have different bends in it, so I can make 2 tubes simultaneously, and so I can steam pieces as one's being set. I can pull another piece, and so it kind of gives me a little more flexibility, and they're easy. They just pack up and get put away.
And the steaming is for the deck.
No, it's for the rails.
It's also for the rails. Okay.
No, it's just for the rails.
Okay.
The decking, which is the Paulownia or the balsa, doesn't need to be steamed. And then so after the template's made, a mold is made. Again, just an example of one. And where's that ash? Oh, here. And then the steamed ash is all clamped to it and bent, encompassing the outline of the board and the rocker.
Got it. And so this piece, or, I'll call it piece, but this is a mold. But so this is not like the actual finished rail. You're actually going to use this to create the rail.
This is the
outline.
inside of the dimensions of the board we want.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
So after we make the outline and we have the template and everything, then we're going to minus the thickness of the rails, and that's how big this is going to be. And this is where the tail block will sit inside of this. And so this is to clamp everything down and to hold, because again you're bending 8/4 ash.
Yeah. Right. So okay. So
It
you.
takes a lot of force too, and
So
then and then it's all clamped. I have large pieces of aluminum that I use to block in behind it,
Okay.
because you'll crush it, and it won't distribute the weight and won't glue up properly.
Right. So it's delicate as well when you're doing that.
Yeah,
You don't want to crush
it's a lot
it.
of force, but it's
And it's multiple layers, I think, is what you were telling me.
yeah. So like the concept of a skateboard deck.
Okay.
So depending on the size of the board, they average. I think we're about 6 layers.
Okay.
This is
6
what,
layers.
6
Okay.
layers, between 5 and 6 layers is about where we're at now, depending on if there's softer woods mixed in or what the weight ratio is. Or
Right. So this is, I guess, a couple other terms you had mentioned to me before as well. So you're laminating all these strips. You're making it thicker and thicker like a skateboard deck. Obviously, it's not a flat like a skateboard deck. You are coming in a parabolic type
Right.
shape, right?
So, well, yeah. So the rail. So it's all going to be continuous.
Yes.
And so in steaming and bending and clamping to this, we'll not only come up with the outline of our board, but also not 100% of the rocker,
Okay.
but a large percentage of it.
Yeah.
And that way, when you have all your fibers running like this, they're continuous. So it's so the fibers are continuous through the whole shape,
Sure.
and that's kind of
Yeah.
part
Same
of it.
direction. So, yeah, so the laminate part. What are you using to laminate? Like, what type of laminate is keeping these together?
Just wood glue.
Wood glue, because yeah, there's no joints at this particular part of the process. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so then you get all those things. You laminate them together. They've already been soaked, so they can bend the way you want them to bend.
Well, they have to, after you pull them off, you this I didn't do this, but so after it's bent and steamed, you let it sit on the mold till it sets up.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's removed and it can go hang up and dry.
Okay.
Because it's still, so it has the shape bent into it, but now it needs to cure.
Okay.
So it originally sits on the mold,
Yeah.
and there'll be several pieces on it, and then those sit off, and those need to fully dry.
Okay.
And then after they're dried, then they're put back on in order and glued up to each other.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how it took several days to soak them, and then you got to this point where now you're laminating them together. Between the laminating and the curing part, how much time has gone by at that point?
By the time it's glued up, I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, you know, it's they're
Varies.
just in general. It's just labor intensive, kind of. You
Uh-huh.
know, you can't really rush things. You can't really take shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, ideally, what I'll do is, yeah, we just moved, and so everything's not set up in the new shop yet and everything. But I'll have a board being molded at the same time I'm shaping or decking another board.
Okay.
And so while this one's drying, you're gluing up the deck on that one, or you're shaping that one, and kind of, you know, keeps them moving.
Uh-huh. So there's like some batching that you're trying to do.
Yeah,
to
yeah. When they start getting up, because yeah, they're probably down to about 250 to 300 hours in each board.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So once you have that cured, what like where are you going from there? What's your next step?
So basically, an example. So like if we took this off.
Okay.
Again, this is an older one. So this is just kind of for example.
Yeah.
But basically, we would have this kind of shape. If this was the mold we were shaping. If this is the board. But so we'd be left with this.
Okay.
And this is one of the earlier ones. It actually has some balsa bent into it. And we did this with the nose because we wanted to keep a parabolic rail. So we still let it ended in a nose block, but then kept the inner rails connected. And again, this is one of the earlier ones that we were working on.
Sure.
And yeah, things have reduced. But again, you can see this would be square too here. So this has been rough shaped. And then after that, it's doweled and decked.
Okay. So the doweling part, are there always dowels used, or is that something that you kind of
Well,
decide?
it evolved to them for a couple things. We wanted to keep the boards have movement, and we wanted to keep the compression from expanding the board
Okay.
more than we wanted to control. So
Okay.
in a couple places we put dowels. I put dowels.
Yeah.
One of my personalities came up with it.
Yeah.
And we put them, also the other concept was too, is that we wanted them in the sweet spot, like right underneath the feet, because there's nothing touching
Under the feet. So,
under the feet, so
kind of-
the sweet spot.
Okay.
So we call them dry bars because it's the only place where the deck is actually connected to the rails,
Okay.
and it's just underneath kind of the choicest spot.
Are the dowels like how are they attached as well?
They're drilled through.
Alright,
You can
so-
see how much play and movement is in it.
So when you say
Rough
drilled
bits.
through, like nut and bolt drilled through,
No,
or just basically wood to
drilled.
wood?
It's drilled through each rail and then just knocked through and glued.
Okay, so it's just basically fitted
Yeah.
to be in there. Okay. All right, well that's pretty cool. So then that creates, that gives you what you're talking about, your strong points.
Right, and then you're kind of at this point, and then at this point, it comes off the rocker table. It's rough shaped like this one is, and then in this case, Paulownia
Okay.
is individually fitted.
Okay, and so when I see, you're fitting them, so obviously you're cutting them to length, but that's probably the easiest part of the whole thing, is cutting them to the length, and then you're trying to, I mean, I'm gonna bring the camera around over here so they can see the front of this where these are touching. You know, you're not building a square box, so you have curvature going on.
Yeah, so, well, that's the thing, is every cut is pretty complex too, because it's not only the curve in each end, but it's also got an angle to it from the way the rocker is, and then whatever the deck pattern is. And what they'll do is they'll actually be put in a little long, so they'll be flexed to it. Okay. And so when they're actually forced into place, the tension alone adds a whole new component. So the deck and the belly are all put in, glued in, you know, together like this, and tensioned in one piece at a time.
Okay, so they're tensioned in, and then I'm imagining, because it's cut, but because of the you have a round curvature in this example, so you're probably sanding a little bit at that point, or how do you get it?
These are well, everything's hand cut. The only power tools used on this board is just in the milling of the material. Everything else is done by hand saw or plane or hand plane.
Right.
So, yeah, these are all just, I mean, some might be sanded, but they're fitted individually.
Right.
And then glued in. And I have different, depending on what the deck pattern is, depending on what the belly is going to be, I have different templates that I run rail to rail that these fit under and that clamp to, and so that holds that at where I want.
And then when you're getting them, closer and closer to the edge, right? It seems like you're going to have more of that. You're saying a cut.
Oh yeah, the last piece is a sliver.
Wow.
That's cut this long. That's like, yeah, I'll show you on. Here, let me grab the other board right there.
Oh, there's the mini Simmons I got to try.
So if you look at here, see, that's a sliver that's cut, that wedge that goes all that distance. So, and then these other ones the cuts on them are like that long.
And you can see the dowel marks there as well, right? Okay. And so, as you can see, kind of what we're talking about, at least you can see on the finished product here, all those different cuts and tension, where those are all placed together. So
and then here you can see the Western red cedar.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that's 2 layers of Western red cedar, and there we have 3 layers of ash on the inside of that, and then another 3 layers on the outside.
And there's no, those cuts, obviously they're super precise because there's no holes in between where they join on the side by side.
We're remembered by what we leave behind. Right? So, yeah. I can find flaws, I guess, but.
And then, are you doing the belly or the deck first in this process?
I do the deck, the belly first.
The belly first.
And you can see here too where the rails meet the tail block. That angle helps. The force and the tension on them helps hold everything in place.
Okay, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think the word is that you are creating those fins too, from what I can tell. And what I've seen here.
Fins, yeah. The jewelry, that's the best part.
Yeah, the jewelry.
Yeah, these are Paulownia with a purple heart inlay.
And that inlay, purple heart inlay, what does that mean?
I've always put purple heart in my fins. It just happened from a long time ago, and so.
Is that just a color, or what do you?
It's a type of wood.
It's a type of wood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I've just always added them, so I do different things in different ones, but I think all my boards have purple heart.
Okay. All right.
So, but yeah,
So that's kind of the concept on that.
Yeah, you can hear that that sound that we were kind of touching on in the last segment, and in the water, yeah, that also makes a different sound that you notice when you're sitting on it. Okay, so you've got that thing bellied up, you got it decked up, and that's happening on this table the whole time.
No, and then
or
once it goes to decking and all that, this is all taken off, and it just goes on all the decking and belly is all done there.
got it. Okay, and so this.
So what I'll even do is, if you look at some of the videos, what I'll do is, because I do the belly first, I'll run a strap, a ratchet strap, from the nose down through to the tail, and actually create more tension on the entire shape, so that as we're tensioning and decking the belly, it's almost just like loading it up and just giving it that much more pop. Or once the outlines and the rough rocker shape is pulled off, it's cleaned up, and then we have the deck and belly are tensioned in individually.
Okay.
Then that's a rough concept of what the finished shape is going to be, is where they're left at.
Right.
And then that's gone back and all hand finished shaped, and the rails are all blended.
Mm-hmm.
And then later that's gone back and finished shaped and blended with the rails, and sealed in the process.
Got it. Okay.
And then after that, it's glassed. And yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I could see, well, actually on this side too. So originally you were talking about, this is kind of like the decking piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see here, I don't know if they can see it, but you got some, I don't know what you call it, down rail or
Uh-huh.
so these things obviously are thick enough that you can get that much, you're sanding it, right?
No, it's
Or-
with a hand plane.
With a hand plane?
Most of it's hand shaped, which is a hand.
So you can shave off, this thing's thick enough where you can shave off and get quite a bit of,
Well, yeah, and ideally, and it's weird because a lot of the shaping is actually done, there's different ways of doing it and everything, but once it's closed up, you can't tell exactly how thick you are and where you have so much. And so a lot of it actually, okay, I can take a little bit more here. I can take a little bit more here, like the sound and the tension of it actually give it, because ideally you're leaving the least amount of material possible and keeping it structurally sound. So you're always playing with that weight versus.
so on the
Magic.
drummer step, are you, the more hollow it sounds, the less you can go?
It's almost not even a hollow sound. It sounds weird, but it's almost a little tinier or something. But the wood has a different resonance and when I get really into it and I'm grinding away, I'll be tapping and shaping and tapping and shaping and then and eyeing and getting
so there's
the contours that I want.
So yeah, so there's quite a bit of tapping. It's like a loose. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see this one has a lot of concave that runs through the belly.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So you're doing that with by hand.
Yeah, everything again done all hand tools. They're not power hand tools, just hand tools. Like minus the milling and then the sanding after I fiberglass it. I'm not gonna say I didn't sand it all by hand.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. So the glue though, the glues,
Glue's all yeah.
That's happening here as well, or no?
Well, each one of these is glued together individually,
Okay.
but all the rails have been laminated and glued together.
And is it the same type of glue that you're using
Yeah.
on each step? Okay, got it.
Yeah. And so and again, trying to keep it as simple and as least toxic as possible. And that's the goal.
You've got all that set up. Now you're getting to another part that we discussed a little bit before about glassing and Avila and all that kind of stuff. And so now you've taken it on, as you're explaining, you've taken it on.
Yeah,
You're doing
I
your
went back to it.
glassing.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And it's not. I don't mind glassing for myself.
All right.
I don't think I could go back to a glass shop every day again. But, yeah, it's great. It's
super, very respected job.
Oh,
Really
for sure.
difficult.
Yeah, and you were talking, you were explaining some of the, a lot of 2 to 4 ounce type glassing you're doing. You're talking about, kind of sealing it with your first coat and trying to avoid some of the gas that gets released from the wood, even itself, and trying to reduce that before you continue on the glassing.
Yeah, big shout out to Jim Phillips on a lot of that. Just his level of wood board building and the experience that he has in everything from refurbishing to creating is just next level. And he got me through a lot of those because it gets ugly sometimes.
So you have like a retainer, or you can call him whenever you need him? Like,
oh yeah, he's a dear friend.
That's cool.
Fortunate enough to call him a dear friend.
Yeah. So okay, well that sounds pretty cool. So at that point, is there anything else before I move on? Is there anything else about the glassing that you want to add?
Most of my earlier boards, I put on a little heavier glass jobs, just because I tend to ride a little heavier boards and I tend to be a little hard on boards. But as it's gone along, we've reduced it and going for efficiency and don't want to bog it down or lose any characteristics that it might have from making it too stiff that way.
I guess the one question that could be added on this, and I've looked at your Quiver, but I mean, you're keeping kind of the wood finish. I mean, because that's what you're doing. There's not a lot of paint jobs going on.
I did one that we tinted, and
you're not feeling it.
It's a lot of people like it. A lot of people are a big fan of it, and it tends to catch the novice eye more in like some art galleries and stuff like that. Like people are really drawn to it.
Right.
But personally, I would never do it.
Yeah, I mean, because I just love this look, and and when you're gonna write it, it just goes together. It seems like the look.
And what how can you make something look better than nature? All we're doing is like enhancing what nature's been. And they win every time.
Yeah, and so there's also videos on your Instagram that like if people can want to check you out, kind of in action.
Some of the earlier stuff would be,
okay, to dig down
earlier down or further down, just take a little scrolling to get to, just because of life sometimes gets in the way. But have some orders coming up, and been doing a little foam shaping to kind of up my grade, so that when I get to this level, I'm, performing at a a higher pace versus 300 hours. Be like, how does this work?
Yeah, for sure. So Platypi on Instagram. We've already probably dropped that in the video, but check it out.
DM me for any questions or anything.
Yeah. So and here's the wrap up, Kyle. If someone was watching this right now and they're interested, what do you want to do with this?
I wish they were less labor intensive, so that they could sell for less, and so that more people could just ride them and enjoy them. But I understand, it's art that's made to be ridden. It's not going anywhere.
Okay.
A big part of the design was, boards that are made today aren't made to last. They simply have a time put into them because of the materials and everything. Everybody's like, the board's from the 50s and 60s and stuff when we started getting foam and stuff. That foam was different. The glass jobs were different. Those can be refurbished and stuff. The boards coming out today aren't going to be around. And I didn't want to work on more landfill. I wanted something that, so this is that it looks good on the wall. But yeah, it should be ridden.
It should be written. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun writing it. I definitely want to try more wood boards now that I've done it, and they were fun. It seems like a lot of fun. So this could be
really different characteristics.
So somebody might pay X amount of dollars for current technology surfboard to do things that people are trying to do right now. At the same time, a board like this can last a really long time. It could be heirloom.
There's nothing's going to expire on this. It can, in some of the earlier concepts of, I was drawn to the old guys at Santa Onofre when you saw them with the sawhorses and knocking blocks into their old planks.
patch it to go back up. You know, there was no chemicals. There was like, you
Right.
cut a block, you knock it back in, you plane it down, and you paddle back out. And so that kind of concept of something that could be fixable, that's constantly made to be, you know, the dings and the fixes just add to the history of it.
Right. Yeah, it feels like it could be handed down to generations, I mean, something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
and like you said, some of those older boards have been handed down, but the integrity of the board, well, I mean, I guess you could be really hard on it, but for the most part, you would think the integrity of the board is going to hold up much longer.
Yeah, and again, the whole concept since I started making them was like, why hasn't someone done this? What's gonna fail? Why is this not gonna work? And so I surfed them hard. I put them in tough positions. I kind of trying to destroy it a little bit, you know, no leash at the reefs. Like, how does this take dings? How does it? And everything went like lived up to, you know, what I was hoping for so far. So
Yeah,
pretty stoked.
it'd be super fun to, you know, kind of almost recreate some of those old footage you were talking about of, you know, taking a Quiver down to like 4 doors and Old Man's and you know, giving them a run, you know, all of them, you know, as many as you
It would be
could.
great. Yeah, we'll load up the new Mini.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited
for
about it. So everybody tried our best to kind of run through that, you know, 300-hour process in, you know, an hour or so, and there was a lot more that we didn't go through, and I'm hemming and hawing at the little, you know, pieces we didn't add, but I mean, we could be here for 300 hours, probably going through each piece of what's going on. So thanks for you know, joining us for all this. And if you have any intrigue on this, or you want to buy one of these boards for whatever it is, I mean, if you want to write it, if you have a museum or a resort you want to put it, I'm sure Kyle will accommodate those requests. So yeah, reach out, DM them, hit them up, put them to work, make them crank more of these out. And if you do get one and you are going to write it, hit me up so I can try it out too.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.